Ryan Kavanaugh, my name is Kelsey McCarson. I cover combat sports for Bleacher Report and for a website called Heavy. I'm super grateful to talk to you, particularly because you've done something that to me is amazing. You've come into boxing. You've done something that transcended the entire, really past the sport with the Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. pay-per-view event. It was new, it was innovative, and now you're going to keep the train going with this Fight Club thing. Tell me, how'd you come up with this stuff, man?
Oh, we have a lot of great people that we work with, and it's a team effort. But I think it's a question I've been getting a lot lately, and the best part of it is that the only thing I could say is I didn't know what the rules were, so I didn't have any rules to follow. So since I come at this from more of a Hollywood angle, having made movies and TV and being in technology, what I saw in boxing is something that was lacking in the under 30 audience, which is an audience that we have on Triller, so we speak to regularly, that I realized we had the ability to speak to, but they weren't going to be happy if we spoke to them and said, come to something that was kind of, boring to them. What I mean boring is that, I just realized when I watch boxing, it looks the same typically today as it did when, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And so the kind of concept was, well, why, I made the movie The Fighter. It was like, why can't I take that feeling? I mean, there was a lot of real boxing, and Mark was a real boxer. And why can't we take that same feeling and create that visceral experience of watching that movie and yet do it with real boxing and exhibition boxing? And and then we realized that there's a lot of crossover between the music and boxing. And it was kind of, let's combine it all. Let's kind of, not focus on the live audience per se, but let's, we put 24 cameras in there, 20 cameras in there, and all kinds of lighting, and let's make it really epic for the home experience.
I thought that the people at the Zone were sharp and innovative, and they are. But then you came along and kind of blew all that out. You blew that out of the water. And I think you're right. You've been successful, a super successful movie producer. You're a guy who comes from outside of boxing. You come into that world with new ideas and fresh takes. And I feel like that really showed itself. I had not experienced something, and I was ready, I put my curmudgeon hat on as a boxing fan, and was ready to hate everything. But I didn't. And I know a lot of people loved that event. Now it seems like you want to carry that same kind of energy over into this Fight Club series. Is that right?
Yeah. So that was really the first Fight Club. And what I mean by that is that that was Triller's first fight event that we produced and we financed and we owned outright. I didn't really yet want to go out and say, hey, this is a whole club if we failed the first time, right? Yeah. So we kind of just left it as, hey, we're doing this fight, but we always had the concept that if it works, it's going to become a club. And one of the reasons we waited to name it was that very reason. We didn't want people to be like, oh, look, they're trying to launch a club. We just wanted to focus on, let's get this one right. And if we can do it right, which we made a lot of mistakes, we can learn from those mistakes, but then we could turn it into a club. So, Snoop's a partner. It's a lot of the same format, but each event, we're also bringing in a different creative producer, not from the fight world. So it's kind of like if you're watching a Wachowski movie versus a Quentin Tarantino movie, right? And we really want to just change it up.
That's awesome, man. I had no idea. I mean, obviously I knew what I was watching was unlike anything I'd ever seen. I'm glad you told me that was technically the first Fight Club event, because when I write about the next Fight Club event, I've been sufficiently vague in calling it the next Fight Club event as if there was one before. So I'm glad that you told me that.
Yeah, it was. I would say this is the second Fight Club event. And we just didn't formally call it Fight Club, but if you look, Snoop's the partner, also with the announcer. It's going to be same exact camera arrangement, same exact ring arrangement. So, but for each one, we really want to create a unique artistic feel. So I'm bringing in producers, directors, people we've worked with in the past and saying, create your vision, right? So it won't look exactly the same. The guys that I made Fighter with probably have a little bit of different feeling of the guys that I made 300 with. And so, it's kind of like, there'll be a different camera on a different camera angle and different lighting.
That's truly amazing to me. Even when I compare, I love boxing, been a boxing fan my whole life since I was a little kid. even if I compare boxing today, what I see today on television, to the UFC, right? I feel like boxing is a long way behind what its competition is. And so I'm really grateful that somebody else will come into this sport, because it's the sport that I love the most, probably boxing. I've loved it my whole life. And I see that you're doing new and innovative things with it. Why Jake Paul as the headliner for the next event? Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. What's important about having somebody that has that certain fan base?
Once again, you know, I don't know what I don't know. So that makes me both somewhat dangerous. And at the same time, you know, I can't be told I'm wrong because I don't know what I'm wrong about. So what we took out of the last event is that people want entertainment. And, you know, I know that from the guys at Johan that we were their most successful, basically commercial event in terms of distribution in 50 years. So they're like, we got 300 people, commercial locations that bought the fight that have never bought a fight before. And it was the younger audiences. And when we watched our digital buys, like real time, just grow, and the chatter on the internet about the look and feel, what we realized is that's the audience that's what fight has been missing, is that younger audience. And so when I look at Jake, I actually think he's a crossover. And what I mean by a crossover is that he's had 2 knockouts, 2 fights. You can't say he's not a boxer, right? You could say, oh, well, I don't know if he's the best boxer. No, people have their opinion, or, you know, maybe he won't win against the biggest pro. Maybe he will, but he's a boxer and he's had 2 knockouts, right? And so when you look at that, which is 1, that he's a boxer, 2, he obviously speaks regularly to the under 30 audience. He's got a tremendous following. He represents everything that people want to be, meaning kids are like, they have a dream of becoming social media stars and then crossing over into other stardom. So it's like, look, he built himself up on a YouTube channel. He became a rapper. He became a boxer. People love that. They love or hate that story. And that's the other thing, is he's polarizing. Yeah. So if you love him, if you hate him, people want to see it. And then you put someone like an Askren there, who's I think he was 18-0, if I was right, until, you know, the end. And someone who is, you know, truly an epic fighter. And also is polarizing because of some of his personal stuff. Yeah. You kind of got like 2 guys that the world either wants to see win or lose, but they want to see it. And they're very, very opinionated on it, which means they're going to watch it. And so to me, it creates this nice crossover of boxing, social media, MMA, all in one fight.
I love it. I mean, even when Jake Paul was fighting Nate Robinson, me as a lifelong fight fan, it was compelling to me, because I was like, can super freak athlete Nate Robinson catch up in time? I don't know, right? And even in this next fight, Ben Askren's not a striker, he's a grappler, but Ben Askren's not going to freak out when somebody starts throwing punches at him. That's happened to him his whole life. Do you guys have matchmakers, or like, how does that work over there? You're coming in kind of, you know, I'm used to the same people in this business doing the same thing, so I'm interested how you're running that part of the operation.
We've got a lot of advisors, and some that come from boxing, some that come from MMA, some that come from social, some that don't at all. And we take their opinions, and we use the thing we're very fortunate about is we've got 250 million people to speak to on Triller. So even when we announced Jake Paul, we like listened to say, like, who do they really want him to fight? We looked at the comments, we asked the audiences, and it was pretty damn clear. They're like Askren. And what was also very interesting is that we use that to gauge, can they be the headliner? Like, are they getting enough traffic and interactivity that will get, you know, 1 million plus buys just on them alone? And I could tell you that answer is yes. Like, we expect this to be the biggest, we expect this to beat the last one and to be the biggest fight of this year.
Wow. So you expect this fight to sell more pay-per-views than Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones?
Yep.
Wow. Amazing. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the innovation, the different stuff that's happening. But as a nostalgia fan, I loved watching 2 of my favorite fighters, Mike Tyson and Roy Jones fight last time. Do you guys expect to do another fight with Mike Tyson?
Yeah, so we have a first right of refusal and a last on his fights. And so obviously we'll see what the next fight holds. You know, I think there's a lot of people are talking about the Tyson Holyfield fight.
Trilogy, I guess, huh?
What's that?
That would be a trilogy then.
It would be a trilogy. I think, I'm not sure what will happen. I know that it takes a lot of work for them to get back at the ring. So
those guys look pretty in shape, though. I know Evander, he definitely wants that.
I think he definitely does.
So you see him, you're not saying anything, but you seem cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I'd say that fair. Cautiously optimistic.
Well, I'm super grateful for that. I'm super grateful to talk to you about it. I think another smart thing that you did was you made the pay-per-view price point easier for people to swallow on the last pay-per-view. Is that something that will continue to this one?
Yeah, so it's going to be the same price, $49.99. One of the things that we're trying to do, like I said, is, this is no longer about having only movie stars and billionaires have the best experience because they can buy a front row ticket. We want the world to have a front row ticket, and we want it to be affordable for everyone. And so we're kind of like, we build the music stages and the boxing stages like a movie set. So there's really about getting the best camera angles, not about getting the best seating angles. And so, we want millions and millions of people at home to enjoy the best view, not 500 people in the front row to enjoy the best view. And that's part of, I think, what we're also changing. So yeah, we want to make it as palatable as possible. So if we can basically make a little bit of money, but make it low price for everybody to enjoy, we'll do that.
How often do you expect to have these type of events? Do you have
probably a minimum of 4 a year, and growing up to maybe a few more. One of the things that we're trying to show a lot of people, promoters, whatever, out there, that we can coexist. So, we're not trying to compete with them. We're trying to say, look, if you have a fighter that maybe is in the purebred boxing world, right? Is true through and through boxing, and you have a fight that's true through and through boxing. Many times, I think there's a couple of people on our last card that benefit from the same thing, but many times it's like, okay, I'm making up a number. Maybe a fight, they'll get 200,000, pay-per-view buys, or 200,000 buys, or, even though they're great fighters, they may not have the notoriety yet. So we want to be that place where someone, any promoter, any manager, we want to be a place where any of them can literally say, you know what, he can go on your card, and they can tell their boxer, go make money over there. And guess what? When you come back after this fight, you're going to have another 500,000 people that wouldn't have been following you before. So it's good for everybody in the boxing ecosystem. And we're not trying to own and own young fighters all the way up. We're just trying to create branded entertainment events within the combat sports world.
My last question really for you is this, or maybe it's an idea. When are you going to try to slide Snoop Dogg into that ring? You thought about how many pay-per-views that would break?
You'll have to call him up and ask him. I don't know if I think he's a lover, not a fighter.
Okay, that's fair enough. He was really, truly great on the call as well. That's one thing that he was universally loved on the last event. And I think that I speak for most of everyone in the combat sports community. Well, maybe the open-minded ones among us that are really happy with what you're doing. So thanks for coming to our world, and thanks for making it a better place.
Well, thank you so much for supporting and embracing us. And, I think hopefully we'll just keep creating entertaining events, and hopefully people see we're not a threat. We're not here to take their business away. We're here to help make it better.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Kelsey. Really appreciate everything.